Hello and welcome to Every Horror Movie on Netflix, the show where we watch and review and discuss every horror movie on Netflix. I'm Chris and I'm here with Patrick.
Hello.
And back with us is Steven. We're glad that you're back. We missed you dearly on the last episode.
He somehow survived being nuked in Vegas.
Hey guys, glad to be back. Glad I missed that movie.
You didn't watch? Did you watch Army of the Dead?
I tried. Okay, so I remember on the episode where the movie was chosen, I said that I had watched like 30 minutes of it or something and thought it was fine. Must have been watching a different movie because I couldn't make it 15 minutes into this piece of shit.
Wow. All right. Well, we'll litigate that later, but we're here today to discuss.
No, we won't. That was last episode.
Not interested.
That was last episode.
We can talk about it on Discord.
You must be present to win.
We're here today to talk about the Indian film Game Over that we watched on Netflix this week, chosen for us by the Wheel of Death. But before we get into talking about Game Over, let's talk about horror in general. We'll do a little horror catch up. What have you guys been watching or reading or gaming or experiencing that was horrific lately? Patrick.
Horrific. I don't know. I've been frustrated because I really want to see The Black Phone and I really want to watch Mad God, but I haven't gotten to either of them yet because life has been a crazy whirlwind. So just been plugging away at Stranger Things, which I got to say this season has been a banger. Got one more episode to knock out since the final two dropped yesterday as of this recording, and I'm excited to wrap that up. Otherwise, listening to Faculty of Horror. I'll just give Faculty of Horror another plug. If you're not listening to Faculty of Horror already, it's a great fucking podcast. And they just did an episode on superhero horror where they discussed Blade and Constantine, which was a fun conversation and made me want to watch the famous piece of shit that is Constantine that I've never partaken in. So that's about it for me.
I've been wanting to see Constantine since it came out in theaters, but I never did.
What interested you about it?
Just the aesthetic, and it kind of looked cool. It had Keanu Reeves, who was cool at that time, and it was like I was like, hell yeah, like a noir, a cop, and there's demons and shit. There's a Dracula. Let's do it.
Yeah, Faculty of Horror really made me want to finally read some Constantine comics. I mean, as a comics nerd, I've read stuff where Constantine appears because he's one of those characters that just always kind of waltzes in and out of the background of various DC stories. But I've never read any of the original Constantine stuff, which I believe Alan Moore wrote some of it. And Faculty of Horror's take on kind of the politics of Constantine as intended by Alan Moore was really fascinating to me. Basically, he's supposed to be sort of a leftist anti-hero fighting horror threats that sort of represent the right-wing death cult, which all definitely intrigued me. So listen to Faculty of Horror. We've been told to repeat things that we're promoting during Horror Catch-Up because it can be hard for folks to keep track of the title through the whole spiel. So Stranger Things, you might have heard of it, and Faculty of Horror. Those are my picks for this week.
Just briefly, Patrick, I've never watched Stranger Things.
Oh boy.
The first season came out and it was all anyone was talking about, and they said, Chris, you gotta watch Stranger Things. You gotta watch Stranger Things. Why aren't you watching Stranger Things? Like most of the time when people tell me that stuff, I ignored it. And then I didn't hear a lot about Stranger Things for season 2, season 3, and now I guess we're on season 4, 4.5. Should I watch Stranger Things, Patrick?
I don't know. You may, you might get a little bogged down in some of the references. It does get a little referencey at times, and that can be annoying. But the character work and the acting is extremely strong, and especially this season, there's just some really fun stuff happening with the characters and some very affecting stuff. I mean, I've been choked up multiple times this season. On a character level, it's just really charming and engaging. I understand why people get sick of some of the referencey stuff, but I've been enjoying it. I don't know. Right. That's not really an answer to your question, but
that's helpful. That makes me more interested in it than I was before.
Yeah.
All right, Steven, how about you? What have you been consuming?
Well, I've been off for a while, so I have a lot. I'll keep each of these as brief as possible.
Just give us your top 10 like Letterman.
I got 5. One of them's not even a horror thing, but whatever. Okay, so I'm having so much fun on the Discord. If you're listening, please join us over there. We're having some great conversation. I led a little book club that's gonna, I think, continue. We started last month with The Last House on Needless Street by Catriona Ward. Nobody seemed to like it, myself included, but we had some robust conversation about that clunker, and we are gonna read Thomas Old Huvelt's novel Hex for July. So if you like to read, and I hope you do, pick that up. Join us on the Discord.
Well, and we should say, like, the Discord, since this is still new, folks may not even know what we're talking about, but there's now an Amon Discord where you can discuss everything from our latest movies we've watched to any horror thing you want to talk about, and also all kinds of shit that's not horror, too. We have a fucking channel for just cat pics. So it's been really fun community, and we'll drop a line in the show, a link. Yeah, we'll drop a link in the show notes for you to go check that out if you want.
If you're not hip, if you're not a gamer, if you're not a Zoomer, you might not even be familiar with Discord. But it's like it's like the AOL chat rooms of old, but new. It's like Slack, but for people you choose to associate with instead of just your coworkers. If you're familiar with any of those things, you get the idea. It's kind of like a forum, but there's not really threads. It's more of a chat, but it's not really real time unless a lot of people are on at the same time.
There's a J emoji.
There's a J emoji. We have our own emojis. So yeah, I don't know. Just come by and say hi. It's a great place to interact with us. But yeah, Stephen, I really I don't read, but I like your book club. Right. I'm always surprised when a book club like takes off. And you know, you had the idea, and I was like, oh man, I wonder if that's going to get participation. But it's been booming in there, and people have been following along and reading and having good discussions, and it makes me want to pick up a book.
Great. Well, I just told you which one to pick up. And Patrick, at Patrick's request, in August, we're going to be reading the new, I almost said Jacob Tremblay, the new Paul Tremblay novel, The Pallbearers Club. But back to my picks. I watched Phil Tippett's Mad God, which Patrick alluded to earlier. This is on Shudder. If you're not familiar, this has been getting actually some kind of mainstream attention just because of the story behind it and the sheer spectacle of this film. But this is a 90-minute, mostly stop-motion animated film that's kind of a stream of consciousness journey through hell. At least that's how I interpreted it. It took Phil Tippett, special effects master who's worked on everything from Star Wars to, I think, even Alien. He made this thing himself over the course of 30 years. And it's impressive. I don't think I'll ever watch it again. But I had a lot of fun watching with a group of people and some mind-altering substances. And that's how I would recommend you check out Mad God on Shudder. And 2 other quick things from Shudder. I finally saw Louis Teague's Alligator, written by John Sayles. The cover for this always intrigued me, as well as the premise. A baby alligator's flushed down a toilet. and becomes genetically mutated in the sewers and goes on a rampage. And I gotta say, the alligator fucking rocks in this movie. It doesn't look cheap ever. It crashes a wedding at one point in maybe one of the funniest scenes I've ever seen in a horror movie. It's genuinely thrilling and hilarious. And lastly, I caught up with Hellbender. Have we talked about this at all, guys? Has that been on y'all's radar?
No.
I played a shitty computer game called Hellbender when I was a child, but I'm pretty sure that's not what you're talking about.
No, and I watched this a few weeks ago, so my memory isn't great. I mean, I don't know that I would exactly recommend it, but it's pretty impressive. There's this family called the Addams Family, of all things, that makes movies together. They had another film a few years ago called The Deeper You Dig that I want to check out. And this is about a mother-daughter kind of musician duo. The daughter is told that she can't have any contact with the outside world because of some kind of illness that she has, but she ends up kind of making some friends, doing a little bit of partying, and it turns out that I don't think it's a spoiler. There's some witchcraft involved in this film, and we find out more about her terrifying origin and powers and why her mother wants to keep her shut off from society. It's got a pretty cool soundtrack. Like, there are full-on music videos of it of the mom and the daughter jamming out together. And it's really impressively made for something that seemingly has no budget and is just a family affair. But, that said, even as forgiving as I was toward it, it gets a little cringy at times. But I'm excited to see, this movie is getting a lot of buzz. I'm excited to see what these family members do with maybe a bigger budget on their next feature.
Yeah, I heard about that and I was very curious about it.
Okay, so this is the last thing. Just because I missed the last episode and I wanted to drop a pride pick that's not horror. I don't know if either of you have heard of the movie Fire Island that's on Hulu. This is written by and starring Joel Kim Booster, My Bae, and it's a really fun, mostly light kind of romp around Fire Island from the perspective of people who don't really fit in with sort of the rich white masculine tone that is generally set there. This is about people who don't have money, people who are of minorities that are typically shunned in the gay world, and it's about them kind of having their last summer there and trying to find love, trying to hold on to their friendships while their lives are about to change dramatically. And it's a really fun, sweet, cute gay movie. And if you haven't heard of Joel Kim Booster, he's fucking hilarious. So check that out.
I've never heard of Fire Island.
Really?
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah. I've heard of Temptation Island.
Oh, well, Google a Fire Island. It's an island off of New York City that has been a gay mecca since, God, I don't know, the 40s or the 50s, maybe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So this is not horror.
Is it like Cuba where it's stuck in the 40s and 50s and they're driving old cars and shit?
No, it's very trendy. It's very trendy.
Oh, that's disappointing.
Anyway, that's all I got. Shall we get into Game Over?
Well,
yeah, because
Chris,
I don't have much. I went to the 40th
Oh, sorry.
anniversary screening of The Thing.
Oh, God,
that's
yeah.
all. The one I went to the Sunday one, which was in the wrong aspect ratio and was a shit show, but it was still it was fine. If you didn't, I was like, I think this looks wrong, but it was hard to put my finger on it, and I don't think if you know. Obviously, it's a crime against cinema to have an anniversary re-release like that, but if you saw it for the first time in the fucked up aspect ratio, I don't think you would have a bad experience. But yeah, what can you say? The Thing, it holds up for all the reasons it holds up. I hate to say I don't feel like I'm ever really on The Thing's level. Like people are like, oh, this is a masterpiece. It never really strikes me as a masterpiece. I don't think it really works for me thematically, but as a good little atmospheric spook show with good effects, I like it. So.
wow,
I'm very
hot take.
surprised by that take, Chris. I thought this
Yeah.
seemed like
Really?
one of the most Chris movies of all time.
Yeah, I thought you loved that movie.
I don't not love it, and it's probably one of Carpenter's better movies. I just never feel like I'm getting it. What can I say?
Yeah, I love it. I'm staring down a poster of it right now, actually. That's one of my favorites. It's a good summer, like Saturday afternoon movie when it's like 90 fucking degrees outside. You crank up the
Just to
AC
cool you
and
down.
hang out with The Thing in Antarctica,
But I
wherever
mean-
the hell they are. It's great.
I don't love Alien either, and I feel like they're kind of very similar. Hot takes.
Wow, sizzling.
Wow. Yeah, we could do
Anyway.
a whole mini-sode on that, or a maxi-sode probably.
I'm gonna get canceled. All right. Well, yeah, our movie for today, though, is Game Over, and it's so good it's on Netflix 3 times in 3 different languages. And I think the story is they shot 2 of these simultaneously, where they just did the scenes over in different language with multilingual actors. And then one of them, I think the Hindi version is actually just dubbed. And I watched the Tamil version, and I don't know what you guys watched. It probably doesn't make a difference.
I watched Telugu. I think we all watched a
I
different
watched the
version,
Hindi
right?
version, yeah, so we got this
Yeah.
covered.
Oh, you did? You watched
Yeah.
the dub, Steven.
So we've got
I would
the
not have been able
trifecta.
to tell it was dubbed if it was in fact dubbed, but
Oh, okay. But this is the story of a, as the synopsis says, she's a video game designer / developer, works from home. She's the survivor of a traumatic experience where she was attacked, assaulted, etc., and is now sort of, very shaken by the experience, having a hard time, being out in the world, doesn't like the dark, especially, has a fear of the dark. And she has a little gamer tattoo, and the gamer tattoo starts burning, and she starts to she's like, what's going on? Why is it burning? This coincides with the 1-year anniversary of some heinous serial killings, which we see in the opening of the movie, at least one of them. And so our hero is trying to figure out, she's on her own journey of recovery. And then she's also trying to figure out, like, why is my tattoo burning and why do I have a sensation that, like, something bad is about to happen as the anniversary of my assault approaches. I think that's as good of a synopsis as I can give you for this one. It's kind of a weird movie.
It's definitely a weird one. God, now that you lay it out like that, it sounds an awful lot like Paul Verhoeven's Elle, doesn't it?
I could see some parallels with a video game developer thing.
Who is brutally assaulted in her own home.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's very odd. I don't think there's any other parallels, but it's a strange enough concept on its own. I can't believe there are 2 movies that have that basic premise.
It reminded me strongly, well, I mean, certainly the way it approaches the assault and the way she processes the assault is quite different from Elle.
Yeah.
But it also reminded me strongly of Hush.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that a lot more in the spoiler room. I feel like a lot of this is going to be in the spoiler room because there's a fairly shocking development not too long into the movie, which is nonetheless spoiled in like the preview image on Netflix, but it's still one of those things where I'm like, that's a shocker. Even when you know it's coming.
I have a funny story about that. Yeah. But the movie starts off and, like, you know, I don't know. I realize that maybe I don't take horror movies on Netflix that seriously anymore, because this movie starts off and it was like, it's harrowing found footage from the point of view of a serial killer who is stalking a woman, eventually nabs the woman, suffocates the woman, decapitates the woman, burns the woman's corpse, punts her severed head through the uprights of a football field. And it was horrifying to me.
Yeah, me too.
It was legitimately scary. And I was like, oh shit, like, is this actually a terrifying movie that I'm watching right now? Because, and I realized, like, I usually don't entertain that as a possibility. I'm like, I'm never sitting down for one of these Netflix movies anymore. And I'm like, oh, I'm about to be terrified. I'm about to see something scary. Even though certainly we do. I don't know. But it definitely set me up for, like, I was like, oh, is this going to be, you know, 90 minutes of bad road, as James Cameron would say? And it's really not. And that was disappointing.
I was misled as well, Chris. You know, anymore I go into these movies, I'm not going to lie, I got pretty stoned before I threw this on. I thought this is just going to be trash like everything else. I was shaken by that opening and thought, okay, maybe I need to cool down a little bit, wait before I come back to this. And then almost immediately after that, I was cackling left, right, and center, writing down funny lines, funny observations. Turns out that's about as scary as it gets.
I disagree. There are multiple terrifying and harrowing moments in this movie. That may be one of the most terrifying or harrowing. And it certainly opens extremely strong, but it's very tense and upsetting at various points. It never hits
the high of the opening, and I thought it was a novel concept too. I'm sure this has been done, but, like, I don't think I've seen a movie where it's like found footage, but it's from the point of view of the killer. I'm sure that's been done.
The movie I worked on, Last Girl, that is the concept of it. And I remember even at the time thinking, man, it feels like this has been done to death. But now that I think about it, yeah, maybe there aren't many movies where the killer is the one with the camera.
Well, Henry does some of that.
Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer has a scene like that, which is very powerful.
Right,
but it's, that's not like the point of the movie, obviously. But there's just something, and there's something that makes it scarier because, like, it's like you're detached from the action enough that there's like a banality to it that's just kind of extra creepy when you're seeing these people die and there's just like someone's recording it on a handy cam.
Well, but we should clarify, it's not a found footage movie. Like the scenes, many of the scenes where the killer is stalking somebody are shown from the killer's point of view, but the vast majority of it is not.
Right. That's just the beginning of the movie. And then it's like very conventionally shot, very well shot, actually.
I think so too.
I just moved and I haven't had access to my good TV since like March, and this is like the first thing I watched on it, and I was blown away at how good and colorful this movie was and how good everything looked and all the light filtering through the windows and hitting our heroine in the back of the head was very nice.
There's a lot of great like camera movement in this as well. I thought it was exceptionally directed.
Yeah.
And kind of like the main sort of hook, or the main sort of, I guess, fatal flaw or whatever for our protagonist is she has an extreme fear of night and darkness, which is tied to her PTSD from this assault. I mean, rape. I think it's described as a rape in a newspaper headline, because it's not. I appreciate the restraint they used in communicating the horror of what happened to her, while also not like graphically depicting it, even with all the flashbacks we see. But it's pretty specifically stated that she was raped during a New Year's party some time ago, and because that happened in the dark, she has now this extreme fear of the dark, where she sleeps very poorly, and when she does wake up in the middle of the night, she immediately like freaks out and has to turn a light on. And of course this causes lots of problems for the events of the film.
There's a little bit of misdirection too. I don't know if I don't think it's a spoiler to say this, but the movie kind of makes you think that this woman's a survivor of the serial killer that you saw in the prologue, but she's not. It's a unrelated assault, but you better believe she's going to cross paths with that serial killer by the end of the movie.
I actually didn't think that she was a victim of the serial killer. That's interesting.
Oh, I did. Well, because they both the assailants like use video cameras, I think, and just the way. I think there was something about one of her flashbacks that kind of rhymed with the stuff that we saw in the prologue. Not the least of which that our heroine got her tattoo at the same tattoo parlor as the victim from the prologue, because the victim had like 3 tattoos on her arm. So there's connection there. But what that connection is ambiguous for much of the movie. She's living on her own for the most part. She is estranged from her family, largely because her parents have blamed her for her assault. And, it's not your fault, but you could have avoided it, that sort of thing. What were you doing going out like that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, victim blaming, and so on. And she's living with someone who I'm not quite sure of the relationship. It's like her
maid.
Alfred.
She's described as a maid, I think, at a certain point.
Okay.
Yeah. Housekeeper.
A maid, but like they have a familial relationship.
Yeah, and I mean she's basically a live-in maid is the impression we get. Like she's never not around, it seems.
Yeah, and it's like for a minute I thought it was like maybe her sister or something, the way that they are close and seem to care about each other, but it's just she is just sort of the maid servant, whatever. We don't really know much about this person's backstory or family, other than apparently she buys a lot of signs at Hobby Lobby, because she's got like every chintzy like eat, sleep, game, repeat, like all
Do
those
not
signs
disturb,
on her
gaming.
yeah, like all those like canvas signs all over her bedroom / office. A little bit on the nose, but she is a gamer. She is a gamer, and not a side note. Listen, we all play a little bit of games in this group
with each other, with our PlayStations,
mind games.
Depictions of gaming that are good are so rare on screen. No one games like a normal gamer in the movies. Like this woman who's a video game designer spends her days like trying to beat the high score on Pac-Man, and like she's got a Super Mario poster. It's like someone who doesn't game writing a gamer and being like, yeah, she still plays Pac-Man. That's cool. That's what gamers do. They want to beat the high score.
Well, and like when she's playing Pac-Man, she's listening to like a trap remix of the Super Mario Brothers theme song. Yeah. They really just double down on the lack of authenticity there.
Yeah. So
maybe she just likes the old school shit, man.
Well, her closet is like a museum of video game history. There's a scene where she's kind of locks herself in there later, and it's like kind of had to pause and look around. It's like every system known to man stacked up in there.
I appreciated that set decoration too.
Yeah, which I was like, is this supposed to be like because she needs it for her job? But like, I think a real world video game developer these days just has like 20 different cell phones like out to like test their shit on, not like a Nintendo 64. But whatever. Anyway, she's a gamer. What else is there to say about this movie without getting into spoilers?
Yeah, I mean, probably not a lot. But I really liked her performance. I thought she was a really strong protagonist, and yeah, this lead actress does a really nice job because this character is going through a lot.
Yeah, I mean, she's really good. I still feel like the character is a little bit undercooked. Again, we're talking about how she's like this gamer stereotype, and like that is her entire personality, aside from
her trauma,
the sexual assault, which is also kind of a lazy way to draw out a character as well. But I've seen worse, and she was fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. No problem with the acting in this movie. Speaking of gaming, they're trying to do thematic stuff with the gaming, but I can't put my finger on it, so I won't try to speculate as to what it means. Also, possibly with the murderers / rapists like recording their acts on camera and stuff. There might be something going on about screen time. I don't know what the movie is trying to say. But I say this because like something that happens early on is she goes to see her therapist who's trying to help her out with her PTSD, and he's like, look, I got a little like VR simulator. We're going to put you in a virtual dark room. And she wears a little headset, and then the rooms get darker. And I thought that was kind of fun. She plays a little PT. Yeah, plays a little PT. He's got I got a bootleg version of PT. Check, this is really fucking cool. I just thought they were, I thought that was interesting, and that was actually a good depiction of gaming that I haven't seen before, where it's like, oh, here's like gaming in a educational setting or a therapeutic setting. But I don't know if it adds up to anything, but I feel like there's some through lines about the gaming that are important. I mean, the title of the movie is Game Over.
I mean,
and one of those little samplers or whatever you call them, those little signs in her room that we see early on is like, what if life is just a video game and deja vu or checkpoints? Yeah. And I'm like, that we see it multiple times, and like I'm still kind of turning over what that might mean for the broader themes of the movie.
It's like Hush.
As far as I'm concerned,
we'll get into that.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say this is like spoiler territory, but as far as I'm concerned, that sign explains more or less what happens at the end of the movie. And the video game thing, I don't know that there's a lot going on thematically. I think it's more a way to create a, I guess, bordering on clever reason for some narrative structural things that happen later in the movie that we will definitely get into in the spoiler room. But
I hope there's more. I hope that the intent is more than that, because otherwise I feel like this movie is just another case of a really long wind up to a shitty punchline.
You're always looking for more themes than people actually put in the movies, I think.
I am.
We have high standards, Chris and I.
I think people aren't trying to do as much as you think they are sometimes.
We just wish they would. That's all.
We need to go to the goddamn spoiler room, because like freaky ass shit starts happening like 20 minutes into this thing.
Yeah, but let's just say like, and maybe Patrick, you said you felt tense, and there's certainly tense moments throughout this thing, but it's largely sort of like a soap opera, and it's largely like kind of light in tone, and it's this woman kind of dealing with her problems, etc.
I would not say light in tone, but go off, King.
Okay, arguably not light in tone, but certainly the horror elements don't come back into it regularly. Am I wrong?
You're not wrong, at least as far as I'm concerned.
I don't know. I disagree, but
I don't know. But it took a long time for me to be like, what kind of movie is this? What genre is this? What's going on here? Anyway.
Yeah. Well, Chris, would you view it, cue it, or screw it? I think that's the question we all want to know the answer to.
Yeah, it's kind of impossible to talk more about without getting into spoiler territory. So I'll say, screw it. I'm sorry. I have no animus towards this film, but there's just not enough there for me. The opening I thought was chilling. Nothing else was chilling. I didn't like the ending. I think it made that the narrative choices Patrick describes, I just thought were kind of stupid and gimmicky, and didn't feel emotionally satisfying in the way that they tried to make them through various other plot devices, including like a 10-minute non-diegetic documentary or something. Didn't work for me. So God bless him, but I gotta say screw it. Patrick.
I'll give it a view. I had a lot of fun with this. It is weird. It's a little bit of a hodgepodge of a few different things and doesn't go quite where you think it's going to. But I liked the way it introduced like a certain supernatural element, but didn't really tip its hand as to if it was supernatural or not. We'll get into that. That's so hard to attempt to even describe right now. I liked the way it handled the killer. I liked that it gave me a protagonist that I felt connected to, and actually multiple characters that I felt well connected to. And I did like the ending. It was fun. It was unique, and I was cheering for our protagonist right through to the end, and it satisfied me. So yeah, had a good time with this one. I guess I've had a pretty good track record with these Indian horror movies at this point. I feel like I need to watch more Indian horror because I had a great time, of course, with our pal Jay with this, and even fucking Boothnath still holds a special place in my heart.
Oh my god.
Steven, tell us how hard you screw it.
Yeah, you know what? I was going to give it a cue it, but Chris talked me down to a screw it. This review.
It's my pleasure.
You know, it's not it's not a bad movie, I don't think. I had some fun with it, laughing at it sometimes, being entertained by it at others, but I think ultimately it's kind of cheap and hollow, like on an emotional and thematic level. Just go watch Hush. It's the same thing, but 10 times better.
I can respect that. The sad thing is, I think it tries really hard to be sincere and have some sort of meaning. Didn't work for me, but
me either.
It might work for somebody.
Parts
Maybe
of
Patrick.
this work better for me than Hush, actually. And I love Hush, but elements of this work better for me than Hush. Just saying.
All right. Well, we're gonna stop being ambiguous and tell you everything that happens in this movie in just a moment. But before we do that, we're gonna give you a little break in case you want to go off and watch the movie for yourself without having it spoiled. And also, don't forget to check us out online. We are at AmonCast, AEHMON Cast, on the big three social media, or what used to be the legacy social media networks, maybe we should say. Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
MySpace, Tumblr, and LiveJournal.
Oh, we should get on those. We're also on Discord now, as we talked about. We'll leave that link in the show notes. And you can go to our broken website at everyhorrormovieonnetflix.com. And we have some content there for you and a link to a little store where you can buy some Every Horror Movie on Netflix merchandise.
Does that link work? I haven't tested that in a while.
Yes.
Okay.
Chris is like Trump. Like, we've just been using the broken website thing to troll him for like a couple months now, and he's just reclaimed it. He's just absorbed it.
The thing
it's
is,
his meme now.
We can't stop plugging the website because at some point the website's going to be fixed, and we need to have episodes where we're telling people to go to the website. So you listener, in the year 2032, we're talking to you. The website works now. You can go see the list of all the movies we reviewed. Anyway, so yeah, well, with no further ado, we'll head on to the spoiler room in just a few seconds. Welcome back. We're down here in the spoiler room getting ready to spoil everything about Game Over. What is there to say?
Well, there's a fucking haunted tattoo for one.
Yeah. This is the drive-in totals on this movie are pretty wild. One of the earliest plot twists we get is that this lady's tattoo is apparently haunted. Why? Because she went to a place called, what's the name of the shop?
Immortal Ink.
Immortal Ink. And which, if the name of the place didn't give it away, like, they do memorial tattoos, which I think is a real thing, where you take cremated ashes of somebody who you love and they mix them into tattoo ink, and then they tattoo you, and you're like, oh, I have a piece of me forever. But there was a horrible accident and they gave our heroine the memorial ink of another person. Who did they give? Whose ink? Whose dead body is in our heroine's wrist? Well, it was the woman from the prologue, the murder victim from the prologue, who was set on fire on a football field, but apparently they reclaimed enough of her ashes from the crime scene to mix them in with ink and give her a tattoo. Then we have to... Feel free to stop me at any time if you want to comment.
Wait, I have a question. So wait, our protagonist, was she do they only do memorial ink? Like, was she going there?
I did not get that impression that they only do memorial tattoos.
She just okay. That's why it's kind of funny, because it seems like Immortal Ink is a specialty shop for this kind of thing. And for all I know, it exists in real life, because we're treated to an infomercial on Immortal Ink that is like the best commercial you could ever want if you were an actual business in India doing these kinds of tattoos.
I don't remember this. Maybe this is only in the Tamil version.
Could be.
Tamil,
could be.
However you say that.
All right. So what?
Wait, I have another question. Sorry. Yeah. Did any of you think for a moment, even just a brief second, that this actress was really getting that tattoo? Because that shit looked pretty realistic when they were putting the needle to the skin and everything.
It did. I didn't cross my mind, but yeah, probably. Or maybe there's like a different type of tattoo ink you can use that dissolves. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. Worth looking into. Yeah. I should have done that.
So it's kind of a mystery. Like, oh, well, whose ink? She doesn't ask. The tattoo parlor person they have a big scene where she's like, I'm so sorry, there's this horrible mistake. She doesn't ask whose ink it was, but then she finds out because the mother of the murder victim, who had meant to get the tattoo, meets her and is like, oh, I'm so nice to meet you. That's my daughter in your tattoo. Pulls out a laptop or gives her like a USB drive or something. Yeah, and there's this 10-minute documentary on her daughter and how her daughter...
It's not 10 minutes.
It's kind of long though. It's 5 minutes.
It's
maybe.
Not that long. It is. Anyway. It is a weird way to introduce this information, but
yeah, and it's not like it just comes up on our screen. Like here's what our character's seeing. The victim from the opening of the movie was actually also a cancer survivor who had gotten cancer 3 times. And 3 times she beat cancer before she was heinously killed. After each time she got a little tattoo on her wrist that's like, I think it's like the cancer ribbon and a heart or something like that. She got that 3 times. And then she died. She was, heinously killed, burned on the 50-yard line. And then they took her ashes and they took her ashes and they put it in the ink. And then and then in the context of this documentary, because the documentary doesn't know there's an accident, they give the ink to the mother for her tattoo, like her memorial tattoo for her daughter. And the mother's like, oh my God, now she's always with me. I'm so moved to tears. This is such a beautiful way to remember her, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, now we know that it's actually in the heroine's wrist. And this is just like the midpoint of the movie.
This is 20 minutes in.
Yeah, I think you're right,
actually,
Patrick.
so no, it's revealed that she has memorial tattoo about 20 minutes in. The mom doesn't show up until a bit later, after something else completely shocking has happened.
Is that after?
I think so, right?
Oh.
Because she's in bed. She's like in a wheelchair, right? When the mom comes to visit her.
That makes sense.
I think.
Yeah. So you want to tell our listeners what other shocking thing happened and why?
Yeah. So I mean, I'm trying to remember kind of what precipitates this, but the PTSD is building up for her, plus the stress of whatever the hell is going on with this tattoo, which usually manifests itself as it's like burning. The tattoo is burning and kind of inflamed, and it's painful for her. She tries to get it removed, but that's also very painful even before they begin the procedure of removing it. So her life is really kind of unraveling. She attempts to hang herself at one point, and then I'm trying to remember what precipitates her big suicide attempt.
Well, the thing I remember is that she's like trying to go about her life, and like there's people in the coffee shop like watching her snuff film video on their phone and laughing at her.
Right, because her rapist presumably released the video, which seems... Actually, no. I guess the way the internet is, that video would continue to make the rounds despite anything. But yeah, people know her and are recognizing her from the video of her assault, which obviously is even more traumatic on top of all the trauma that she's already dealing with to begin with. And she ends up, and this was a shocking scene to me. I think she's supposed to be doing something with the maid or something, and the maid is trying to draw her out, like, come... Right? I'm trying to remember what's going on. The maid is like, come have dinner or whatever. And our protagonist is at a breaking point, and she turns and just like runs out to the balcony of her apartment building and jumps off, falls like 6 floors. And we see the fall from above, from the balcony. It's a great shot, honestly. She gets plastered by a car like fucking Meet Joe Black or fucking Halloween 2, and winds up in a wheelchair as a result of all this, which frankly, I don't know how you walk away from that. Well, I mean, she didn't.
Oh no.
But you know what I mean. You know what I mean.
Yeah. You watch that scene, you watch that shot, and you're like, whoa, she's dead. Now what's going to happen?
Right.
And then it's like it's like in Metal Gear Solid 4. This is a deep cut from Metal Gear Solid fans out there. It's like in Metal Gear Solid 4 when Raiden's holding back the battleship and he can't hold it back anymore, and the whole fucking battleship runs him over onto the fucking pier, and it cuts to black, and you hear the memory of Rose saying, "Remember how we met, Jack?" But then it cuts to like Snake walking down like the deck of another ship, and he's like, Raiden's gonna be okay. It was just like that.
There's a Rose and Jack in Metal Gear Solid.
Yes, of course there is.
Is that a reference to Titanic?
Probably.
Wow.
Yeah.
But yeah, she winds up in a wheelchair, and again, I'm just kind of puzzled by the choice of preview image on Netflix, because this is a rather shocking development in this movie, and yet they show you she's in a wheelchair right in the preview image. And it's like, odd choice.
I hardly ever pay attention to those images. I did not grasp that. Person I was watching this movie with remembered that and was like, this person is gonna be in a wheelchair, right? And I said, no, I don't think she's in a wheelchair. I was like, it's probably I gaslit her. I was like, it was probably just a picture of her office chair. And then she's like,
sounds like you, Chris.
She spends the first 20-30 minutes of the movie in an office chair, like rolling around. I was like, see?
And you're like, see, there you go.
It's got to just be an office chair. And then she actually gets hit by a car and ends up in a wheelchair. I'm like, oh, yeah, my bad. And the wheelchair looks nothing like the office chair.
Yeah.
But yeah, now we have and
that happens like a fucking half hour into the movie, I think.
You guys, you're experiencing time dilation effects. You should check the foundation of your building for a black hole, maybe, because I think your time. This is halfway through the movie.
I'm reviewing the tape. Continue talking.
That's definitely halfway through the movie. The tattoo reveal was early on, though.
But now we have like sort of a like rear window disabled protagonist thing going on, where we know that our heroine is going to be stalked and menaced by a killer at some point. And, she's now, her mobility is limited. She makes some great improvements in her mobility during the course of the month or whatever it is that we follow her. But by the end of the movie, she's still largely confined to a wheelchair. If only with like broken ankles.
There's some great wheelchair foo in this movie too, toward the end.
Oh yes, of course.
Oh yeah, I guess it does take a while for her to end up in the wheelchair. That is about halfway. Fair.
Correct again. I'm correct again as usual.
No one's righter than you.
Anyway, so yeah, so basically then as New Year's Eve approaches, we know the shit's going to hit the fan. And I mean, there's not real major story beats until the ending, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think so,
right.
because the ending kind of arrives in an interesting fashion, because I don't know, I'm a time checker. I know you're not, Chris, but I was checking the time, and as it was clearly ramping up to this final confrontation, I was like, wow, this is very early to be getting started on this. How is this going to play out, But this movie has a very big trick or gimmick up its sleeve for the finale.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I guess the emotional, because after she gets injured, you were right. Like that's when the mother shows up and plays the documentary, and so we kind of get this like emotional climax where it's like, oh look, like you're a victim. This woman's a victim. There's some solidarity going on between you and all this stuff, and it's kind of a sweet thing. And if the movie had ended like that, it could have passed for just like a kind of like a sentimental drama movie or something like that, and probably been fine. Then we move on to it's New Year's Eve, my birthday, by the way. The killer shows up at this woman's house, basically, and kills the maid, kills the security guy, kills everyone around this house effortlessly, stalks, chases our hero, sets the hero's bedroom on fire, and catches our hero, tortures our hero, kills our hero.
Decapitates her.
Dies.
Lights are
Decapitated.
on fire. We see it from the perspective of her head, which is pretty horrifying and novel.
Yeah. Yeah. So our hero is dead.
Game over.
Game over. But wait, is it? Because remember, this isn't just an ordinary woman. This is a gamer. And she noticed that. Did she notice before this happened that she had 3 tattoos?
No,
I think that's when this is revealed.
Okay,
or no, it does. No, she does notice it because she only has 2 when she comes back.
Yeah, so
there is an odd moment where she notices this. That she now has 3 of the same tattoo lined up on her arm. The tattoo we've seen throughout the movie.
And that tattoo, it's a heart, universal symbol of health and life for gamers, and it's got like a game controller in it. So she's got 3 of those. And so she dies, and guess what? She respawns from her checkpoint where it's 11 o'clock again on New Year's Eve, and now she's only got 2 hearts on her arm. And so I'm like, oh, yep, she gamed so hard that she has extra lives IRL. And this of course rhymes with the cancer survivor having beaten cancer 3 times. So is this a power that she kind of inherited from the cancer survivor? Is the true strength of a woman being a gamer or being a cancer survivor in this movie? I think it's more about the cancer. I'm not sure.
Well, the mom also alludes to the deceased woman having some connection, some spiritual connection to our protagonist, and says something about along the lines of like she's reaching out through you and she would want you to fight, and that line kind of comes back at some point in the finale. Alternatively, we are also very distinctly shown that sign on the wall about what is it about deja vu? Steven said it once already. It's something like
what if real life is a video game and deja vu are just checkpoints?
Right, yeah.
There's also another one that says something like, gaming ruined my life, but don't worry, I have 3 more, or something like that.
Yes, that was in the closet, I think.
Yeah, and so to me, I liked this because you can read it either way as like, some spiritual or supernatural thing where she has some sort of power lent to her by this woman she's connected to in this strange way. Or maybe it is just deja vu, or maybe she's just doing the Hush thing where she's envisioning different scenarios. Like it's open to an interpretation in a way that I liked. And I was glad that I wasn't led by the nose to a certain explanation of it, and that it wasn't, expositioned to all hell.
Yeah. And I'm trying to remember, I think it is ambiguous because they don't do something that I would have appreciated. Like, I don't think she is able to progress in these scenarios using knowledge from the prior run, right?
No, she definitely does. Because she's like looking out the window again to see like who's in the chair, and she's definitely operating with more knowledge. Because she like later in the final run, like she knows how long it's going to take the police to get there when she calls the police. And
right. Well, that could be chalked up to like the Hush thing, like envisioning scenarios or whatever.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But like what I'm saying is like, is there something where she has like a precognition of what is happening or what is going to happen that she can use in a later scenario? And I guess you're right, because as opposed to like investigating the noises and stuff, she's like, oh wait, I know what that is, etc. So maybe it's not, maybe this is actually just really happening, because you wouldn't be able to envision scenarios using knowledge from other scenarios that haven't happened. If that makes sense. Anyway.
I liked the ambiguousness of it, and I also liked the reveal as it goes along that what we've thought is just one killer is in fact 3 killers, all wearing the same mask. So the threat kind of increases exponentially. Yeah.
I don't know if it's exponential, but it triples.
Yeah, not exponentially. It sounded good. The word felt right in my mouth.
And these killers are dripped out. Let me just say that. They look fucking sick.
Dripped out.
I've been told you're not supposed to praise killers and rapists for looking cool. But I'm separating the art from the artist. You needed someone to tell you that. I'm separating the art from the artist. These guys look great. They're wearing like motorcycle jackets and skull masks, and they look pretty cool. But yeah, there's 3 of them, and we know there's 3 of them so that our hero can kill at least 2 of them in the final scenario, and that's basically what she does. She's able to fight back, bludgeon, beat, burn, etc. These 3 killers, and ultimately survive.
You know, and I kind of liked that the killers we just don't know shit about them. They never become characters. They never speak a line. They're just masked psychos, and I appreciated that because I'm fucking tired of killers becoming characters.
All right. Well, here's what I didn't appreciate. One of the main problems in this woman's life is sort of her guilt and alienation over her parents, particularly her father, telling her that she should have fought back against her assailant and that it's kind of her fault for getting raped. The movie kind of settles on like, yeah, like that you should have. You know?
Does it?
Huh.
Because her big moment at the end of the movie, the only like the difference in her third and final run where she's able to succeed and save her life is she's like, you know what? I'm not going to be a coward. I'm not going to hide in the dark. I'm going to fight. I'm going to fight these people finally. Like and I think they even use the audio clip again of her father? They might. I don't know. Don't quote me on that.
But God, I don't even know if that was in my version.
But I thought it was weird that it's like clearly you're not supposed to sympathize with the father earlier in the flashback when he's like, you know, oh, you should have been stronger, you should have fought, etc. But then to have that be the resolution and the change that she actually makes to survive, I thought it was a little upsetting.
I don't see that as the change she makes to survive. I feel like she attempts to run, fight, etc. from square one, and just she makes the wrong decisions in doing that, and like learns better how to strategize as she goes through each run, and ends up enlisting the maid to help her, which is a lot of fun too. The maid ends up like helping set one of the killers on fire.
No, there's a whole difference in her attitude in the third run, because you remember the shot where like her hands hovering over the light switch, and then she's like, "No, I'm not gonna turn on the lights this time. I'm gonna be brave this time. I'm gonna be a fighter this time."
Well, I mean, I don't think that has anything to do with the rape. That just, well, I mean, I guess it is the PTSD. It's her rejecting the instinct or whatever that she has as a result of the PTSD to turn on the light as soon as she wakes up.
All right. Well, certainly she's overcoming her fear of the dark, but
I didn't read any of it as, yes, she should have fought the person who raped her while she was tied up and unable to do anything.
That'd be pretty fucked up.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying
that wasn't the impression I got.
The unfair criticism of her throughout the whole movie has been that she should have taken more responsibility for her circumstances and fought harder. And then it ends with this like dramatic emotional moment where it's like, aha, she's learned that she needs to fight harder. And I thought it was a little tone deaf. But different strokes for different folks. But that's basically the movie. I mean, I don't even know what else there's to say. I was disappointed that she didn't save the maid in any of the 3 scenarios.
I was a little bummed out by that because the maid was a pretty cool sidekick.
I like the maid.
In fact, I thought she was going to have... Oh, because it's the second run. Allow me to rewrite the movie, because this would have been better.
Here we go.
Dude, by all means.
After the end of the second run, they're decompressing and like the cops are on the scene and it's sort of like the resolution, but she still has one life left, so you're like, she's gonna die again and do this again because we know she has a life left. And at that point the maid's dead, and I was like, well wait a minute, we know this character is obsessed with doing better and beating the high score in Pac-Man every time. Is she going to be content to have all the maid die, the security guy die, all her friends die? Or is she going to like kill herself right now, because we know she's capable of that, and go back and respawn and do a perfect run where she saves everybody's life?
We know she's capable of killing herself because we've seen multiple suicide attempts. It's actually the one thing she can't do, apparently.
I guess. So anyway, I would have preferred that. It was sad to see, these sweet characters like the maid and everybody be dead at the end of the movie.
Yeah, it was a huge bummer, seriously.
I thought it was going to be kind of cool and gamer-like for her to be like, all right, I did it, but I can do better on the next run.
But she only had 3 lives. She was out.
I'm saying after the second one.
Run. Oh.
Yeah.
But she tried. I mean, she did her best on the 3rd run. Sometimes you don't get
you
don't get your highest score. Sometimes you don't get the high score.
Is that the ultimate lesson of the film?
Yeah, sometimes you don't get the high score.
Well, that's your movie.
It's your movie.
Game over.
Yep, that's Patrick's view it right there.
That was my view. That was a cheer-worthy finale for me. I was enthralled. And when you're actually like lighting these killers on fire, stabbing them in the foot, all this shit, beating them to death with the fucking leg thing from the wheelchair. Great. I was completely invested. I was like, get him.
I did like that the arsonist was set on fire.
That was fun.
As a recent victim of arson, I've got a vendetta, and I like that the guy who was going to throw the Molotov instead set himself on fire.
Yeah.
Or they set him on fire.
Yeah.
With that candle, I had a hard time believing that candle would have stayed lit as it flew through the air.
I mean, that's classic movie trope, though. I mean, people throw lighters and shit. Like
nothing
that people throw to light something on fire from a distance really would stay lit in time to ignite the blaze.
Should have been a Zippo, windproof.
Are Zippos windproof?
Supposedly.
Yeah, man.
Interesting.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, Zippo is almost a perfect lighter. I love the design. It's just in 60 years, they haven't figured out how to make it not make your hand and pocket smell like lighter fluid.
I'm trying to remember, why do you have a Zippo? Because you do not smoke. Like, what do you have a Zippo for?
Because they're fucking cool, bro.
They are fucking cool.
And like,
didn't we have a whole thing about this on Put in Bay?
Did we?
Probably.
I was trying to find a Zippo somewhere. Yeah, that sounds about right.
And also, it's like, imagine you're out on a deck watching a boat. People don't smoke anymore, but the ultimate male fantasy is you're out on a boardwalk somewhere at dusk, and the most beautiful woman you've ever seen in your life is walking down the pier, and she pulls out a cig right next to you, and she's like, "Do you have a light?" And you pull out not a Bic.
Do I ever?
Fuck a Bic. You pull out a Zippo. Ka-chink. And she's like, oh my God, is this fucking Cary Grant?
And then when you see her face in the glow of the lighter, you realize, oh no, it's Jeannie Moreau.
Speaking of movies that take 30 years to make.
Oh, that's why you got a Bic, wasn't it?
A Zippo, you mean? Don't make that.
Oh yeah, sorry, a
mistake.
Zippo.
Don't get it twisted.
Yes, but since then I've bought my own.
Okay.
That's nicer.
Yeah.
I bought that one at like an antique store.
Oh, okay. For the listening audience, the Arms of Jeannie Moreau is the horror film that Chris and I infamously made like 1/3 of, and
10 years ago,
and have never finished.
Listen, we'll reopen The Patient.
Sure.
I'm going to fix the website, and then we're going to make Jeannie Moreau.
Jeannie Moreau coming in 2047.
I mean, at this point, you're already going to have to deepfake Patrick. So
yeah, we're going to have to.
If you wait that long,
we're
going to have to deepfake everybody.
We've discussed this.
Jesus Christ.
You know what? Let's just hire the guy who did the deepfake Irishman and have him do it.
Let's hire whoever aged up Chris Evans for Endgame, because that shit looks sick. He can de-age, or he could age up the old footage to make us look as old as we are now.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. All right, what the hell are we watching next time, Steven?
Yeah, so Chris, you kind of inspired me earlier with your talk about The Thing, the master John Carpenter, how even his films in the wrong aspect ratio can still bang. We're going to watch one I have never seen, starring notable piece of shit. I already forgot his name.
James Woods?
James Woods. We're watching John Carpenter's Vampires, guys.
Oh, is it on Netflix?
Of course.
I would hope so.
It's trending.
I would hope after 5 years, Steven understands the assignment enough to find something that's on Netflix.
I own it on Blue. I'll probably watch it on Blue to guarantee it's in the correct aspect ratio.
Oh, I'm excited.
You're going to have me over to watch that in the new basement.
It's going to be great.
Whoop, whoop.
Patrick
it's going to
can
be so
come
much
too.
fun, guys.
The theme song for James Woods, fuck James Woods, but his theme song in that movie, to die for.
Does it have words? Lyrics?
No.
That would be sick.
Oh, man.
James Woods.
Vampires, another movie that has a great opening 10 minutes, and then the rest of the movie never rises to that level.
Well, we're not reviewing it yet, Chris.
All right.
This game
Can't
is
wait to
over.
revisit
This
Vampires.
game is over. You don't get any more lives, Chris.
All right. The game's over. That'll be in 2 weeks. We're watching John Carpenter's Vampires. Join us then. And that's it. Thank you so much. Talk to us online. We'd love to hear from you on our Discord or by email or Twitter or whatever have you.
There's a link to the Discord in the show notes if you're looking for it.
Yes. All right.
Because you
Forever
can't
Home
find it
Movie on
otherwise.
Netflix.
Sorry.
I'm Chris.
I'm Patrick.
I'm Steven.
Goodbye.